What is up, true believers? Luke Kratzer here, and welcome to another exciting episode of 5-Minute Reviews. So, people, we have finally made it. We have finally made it to the halfway point of the Disney Plus original, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Let's get on to it with the review. Start the timer. Episode 3 starts off with an introduction to the GRC. Basically, they're a group of individuals that are helping refugees that have come after the blip. After the commercial, we then have John Walker trying to infiltrate an old Flag Smasher base. He tries to interrogate one of the men, but he ends up getting spat in the face and loses his freaking mind, like going, "Do you know who I am?" We then cut to a scene where Sam and Bucky are at a prison, visiting none other than Baron Zemo. Bucky decides to go in his cell alone because, they have history. And the first thing that Zemo does is say the trigger word that made Bucky the Winter Soldier. Obviously, it didn't work, and Zemo apparently knew that, but he just did it anyway just to see Bucky's reaction. Then Bucky tells Zemo that there are more super soldiers out there, that he needs his help to be able to do it. Zemo gladly agrees because, Zemo hates super soldiers just as much as anyone else. Zemo is able to break out of jail, and it was the way they did the scene. They didn't just make it a breakout scene. They had Bucky describe it as a metaphorical air quote situation. It was downright hilarious. So now we have Bucky, Sam, and Zemo working together to take down the super soldiers. So the three go down to Zemo's secret lair to be able to see all his equipment, high-tech gear, and of course, his iconic mask. Anyway, they got on the plane and they started having a conversation about a potential lead and a very dangerous place for them to go to. In order for them to infiltrate the base, or that bad guy area, is they had to, wear it be in disguise. Sam had to dress up as some gangster dude, Zemo just had to be Zemo, and Bucky, he had to pretend to be the Winter Soldier. We then cut to the Flag Smashers, the main girl of the group going to some homeless shelter. Apparently, the main girl was trying to see some girl or some old lady that died. They didn't explain who she was at first, but later on they were able to explain that she was actually a mother figure of hers. We then see Bucky, Sam, and Zemo infiltrating the city of Madripoor. Now, I actually thought that was really cool because, believe it or not, that was actually a city linked to the X-Men stories. So we might later on get a story where the X-Men and the Avengers finally collide. As for the city in general, the city of Madripoor is visually stunning. The scenery was so amazing, looked super futuristic like in the comics. Anyway, we then have Zemo and the gang going at some bar, and I gotta say, the entire scene was pretty funny because we end up seeing Sam drink snake guts. We saw the Winter Soldier beating up some dudes and being as cool as ever, and then we just have Zemo just smiling and waving the entire time. They then get to see some head honcho lady, and apparently she knew about the super soldier stuff. They then managed to find the name of the guy who was making the formula. However, Sam was able to blow everyone's cover because apparently he decided to do this mission without his phone on silent. Freaking idiots. The gang tries to book it and tries to get out of there, but they end up being cornered by baddies. But then, out of freaking nowhere, freaking Shannon Carter, the girl from Civil War and Winter Soldier, showed up to save their lives. They managed to help them escape, and we end up seeing that Shannon is not really living the high life right now. You see, after the events of Civil War, she ended up becoming a fugitive, just like Sam and Bucky. However, after Endgame happened, Sam and Bucky had their names cleared. But Shannon, she didn't. Luckily, Sam was able to try to make a deal with Shannon, saying that if she was able to help them, then Sam would do whatever it took to clear her name. They agreed, and for some reason they ended up going to some party. I don't really know why, I just know that was how they were able to find the scientist that made the super serum. But that's not the main thing that came out of that entire situation. We also got to see freaking Zemo dancing it up on the dance floor, giving Tobey Maguire a run for his own money. They managed to find the scientist that remade the super serum, and they interrogated him, and turns out that the scientist was taking blood from the super soldier Isaiah. They were able to make the super serum able to give you the superhuman abilities, however, they didn't have to make you all bulky, kind of like what happened in Captain America, the First Avenger. It turns out the scientist was going to be doing this for the CIA, and then, out of nowhere, he blipped, and when he came back, the entire project was terminated. Luckily, he was able to find a job when a guy known as the Power Broker was able to hire him for the serum. But before the scientist could deliver the serum to the Power Broker, the Flag Smashers intervened and took the serum. Anyway, after they got the info they needed, Zemo goes rogue and decides to kill the scientist, and then a group of guys showed up trying to kill them. I assume that they were guys that worked for the Power Broker. That's the only thing I can think of, and there went one of the coolest battle sequences in this entire episode. We got to see a fight scene with Shannon Carter, and we got to see a fight scene with Dr. Zemo. After that situation happens, the three then go to Sokovia, which is like technically no longer Sokovia anymore. It's basically just some memorial. Anyway, while that was happening, Bucky decides to be all cool and ends up finding some weird Wakandan beings. And surprise, surprise, the Wakandans are now after Zemo. Okay, now time for some final thoughts. Being honest, there was a lot I liked about this episode, but specifically, I was more interested in Zemo's character. I really am glad that they were able to try to bring Zemo back into the MCU because I actually liked his performance in Civil War, and I really am looking forward to how they're going to be able to play him out as the series progresses. As for Walker, I still think he's a really cool character, and I really am looking forward to how they're going to try to link Walker to the Power Broker. Because if you guys did not notice, in the comics, Walker did work for the Power Broker. So I really am curious about how they're going to be able to try to intertwine them in this series. If they don't, then I'm going to be hurt for a little bit. Well, guys, that's all the time I have for you today. If you did enjoy this video, be sure to give me a big thumbs up, subscribe, comment down below. And while you're at it, stay tuned for spring break, because this spring break, I plan on putting some extra content for you guys, and I really hope you enjoy it. So stay tuned and enjoy your spring break, because I'm going to be. I am Luke Krautzer, and thank you for joining me on 5 Minute Reviews. Peace out, guys.